the Netherlands, a country known for tulips, windmills, and a liberal approach to life. But beneath this picturesque facade, a darker side lurks. Organized crime has taken root, and one name whispers through the streets with a mix of fear and respect: the Mocro Mafia. Born from the Moroccan diaspora that arrived in the Netherlands in the 1980s and 1990s, the Mocro Mafia's story is one of ambition, violence, and the relentless pursuit of power. They are young, ruthless, and unafraid to use extreme violence to get what they want. Their rise has been meteoric, transforming them from street-level thugs to major players in the global criminal underworld. The Mocro Mafia's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in the most progressive societies, the seeds of organized crime can take root and flourish. The 1980s were a time of economic hardship and social upheaval in the Netherlands. Many Moroccans who had immigrated to the country in search of a better life found themselves relegated to the margins of society. Facing discrimination and limited opportunities, some turned to crime as a way to survive. Drug dealing, particularly hashish trafficking from Morocco, became a lucrative trade for many young Moroccans. Small-time dealers formed gangs, pooling their resources and muscle to protect their turf and expand their operations. These gangs became the precursors to the larger, more organized Mocro Mafia groups that would emerge in later years. With money came power, and with power came the ambition to expand into other criminal enterprises. The turn of the millennium saw the Mocro Mafia solidify its grip on the Dutch underworld. They had learned from the mistakes of their predecessors, adopting a more hierarchical structure and sophisticated methods of operation. At the helm of this empire were charismatic and cunning leaders, often referred to as patrons or godfathers. Below them existed a complex network of lieutenants, enforcers, and foot soldiers, each with their specific role to play in the organization's illicit activities. They infiltrated legitimate businesses, using them as fronts for money laundering and other illicit activities. The line between the underworld and the legitimate world became increasingly blurred as the Mocro Mafia's tendrils reached deeper into the fabric of Dutch society. What sets the Mocro Mafia apart from traditional organized crime groups is their brazen use of violence. They are notorious for their ruthlessness, often resorting to extreme measures to eliminate rivals, silence informants, and intimidate anyone who dares to cross their path. This willingness to resort to violence has sent shockwaves through Dutch society, challenging the country's image as a haven of peace and tolerance. The Dutch government has come under increasing pressure to crack down on these criminal organizations, but dismantling their deeply entrenched networks has proven to be a daunting task. Their rise is a stark reminder that organized crime is not a relic of the past, but a constantly evolving threat that can emerge in even the most unexpected of places. Understanding the Mocro Mafia means understanding their structure, a rigid hierarchy that dictates everything. Imagine a pyramid, each level distinct, each with its own duties and risks. At the very bottom, we find the street dealers, the foot soldiers of this criminal enterprise. Above them sit the runners, responsible for transporting drugs and cash. Climbing higher, we encounter the enforcers, the muscle. They collect debts, silence informants, and carry out the brutal orders that maintain the Mocro Mafia's grip on power. This rigid hierarchy, with its clear lines of authority and compartmentalized operations, makes the Mocro Mafia a formidable force, difficult to penetrate and bring down. It's a system designed for both efficiency and self-preservation, ensuring that even if one part is compromised, the whole structure remains intact. The life of a low-level Mocro Mafia member is a precarious one, full of risk and devoid of glamour. Often young and drawn from marginalized communities, they are lured by the promise of quick money and a sense of belonging. These young recruits are expendable, pawns in a dangerous game played by those higher up the ladder. They face constant pressure to prove their loyalty, often through acts of violence. Many are trapped in a cycle of poverty and violence, with few options for escape. The Mocro Mafia offers them a perverse sense of family, a twisted camaraderie forged in the crucible of crime. It's a dangerous education, one that often ends in prison or an early grave. The glue that holds the Mocro Mafia together isn't just fear, it's a complex mix of kinship, cultural ties, and a warped sense of loyalty. Many members are related by blood or marriage, strengthening the bonds within the organization and making infiltration by law enforcement incredibly difficult. This sense of family extends beyond bloodlines. The Mocro Mafia often exploits the close-knit nature of Moroccan communities in the Netherlands, using cultural ties and shared experiences to maintain control. They prey on the vulnerable, offering protection and support in exchange for loyalty and silence. Betrayal is the ultimate sin, punishable by death. Informants are dealt with swiftly and brutally, sending a clear message to anyone who considers cooperating with the authorities. This unwavering loyalty is both their strength and their weakness, binding them together while simultaneously making them vulnerable to internal power struggles. At the apex of the Mocro Mafia pyramid sit the patrons, shrouded in secrecy and feared for their ruthlessness. These individuals are the masterminds, the strategic thinkers who control vast criminal empires. They are rarely seen, preferring to operate from the shadows, issuing orders through trusted lieutenants. Their pasts are often shrouded in mystery, their true identities unknown even to many within their own organizations. Despite their elusiveness, the patrons exert absolute control over their organizations. They demand unquestioning loyalty and have a reputation for dealing with dissent swiftly and brutally. Law enforcement agencies have had limited success in bringing these shadowy figures to justice. The capture of a patron would deal a significant blow to the Mocro Mafia, but their grip on power remains frustratingly firm. The Mocro Mafia's bread and butter, their path to unimaginable wealth, lies in cocaine. They've become masters of the drug trade, turning the Netherlands into a major entry point for cocaine flooding Europe. They operate with ruthless efficiency, using their connections at major ports like Rotterdam and Antwerp to smuggle massive quantities of cocaine. Hidden in shipments of fruit, machinery, anything you can imagine, these drugs slip past customs, overseen by corrupt officials bribed into silence. The Mocro Mafia reinvest their earnings, corrupting officials, buying influence, and solidifying their stranglehold on the drug trade. The streets of Europe are awash in cocaine, fueling addiction, violence, and social decay. The Mocro Mafia, driven by greed, turns a blind eye to the devastation they leave in their wake. The Mocro Mafia isn't one monolithic entity, it's a complex web of rival gangs, each vying for control, each ready to spill blood to claim their turf. Alliances are fragile, often forged out of convenience and shattered just as easily. These internal power struggles play out on the streets, turning once peaceful neighborhoods into war zones. Drive-by shootings, assassinations, even bombings have become commonplace as rival gangs settle scores and eliminate threats. Innocent bystanders often get caught in the crossfire, their lives cut short by the reckless violence of these gangs. This constant state of conflict makes it even harder for law enforcement to infiltrate and dismantle the Mocro Mafia. While the cocaine trade remains their primary source of income, the Mocro Mafia is anything but a one-trick pony. They've diversified their criminal portfolio, branching out into various illicit activities, always seeking new avenues for profit. Extortion rackets target businesses, demanding protection money with threats of violence. Those who refuse to comply face the consequences. Their shops vandalized, their families threatened. They've also infiltrated legitimate businesses, using them as fronts for money laundering. Restaurants, construction companies, even nightclubs become tools for cleaning dirty money, making it difficult to trace the illicit funds back to their criminal origins. The Mocro Mafia's tentacles reach deep into society, corrupting officials, manipulating the financial system, and undermining the rule of law. The Mocro Mafia's success hinges not just on their ruthlessness, but also on their ability to corrupt those in positions of power. Corrupt police officers, customs officials, even politicians become cogs in their criminal machine, turning a blind eye to their activities in exchange for bribes, favors, or even threats. This corruption erodes public trust in institutions, creating an atmosphere of fear and cynicism. Witnesses are often too terrified to come forward, fearing for their safety and that of their families. Judges and prosecutors are subjected to intimidation, their lives threatened if they dare to pursue justice against the Mocro Mafia. This culture of fear and silence allows the organization to operate with impunity, their grip on power tightening with every act of corruption, every successful attempt at intimidation. The Mocro Mafia, while steeped in tradition, hasn't shied away from embracing technology. They've gone digital, using encrypted messaging apps to communicate, coordinate operations, and stay one step ahead of law enforcement. These encrypted channels make it incredibly difficult for authorities to intercept their communications, to gather evidence of their crimes. It's a game of cat and mouse, with law enforcement agencies constantly trying to crack the codes, while the Mocro Mafia stays one step ahead, switching platforms, developing new methods of encryption. Social media has become a tool for intimidation, with gangs posting videos of their rivals' executions, sending a chilling message to anyone who dares to cross them. This public display of violence serves as a stark reminder of their power, silencing dissent and instilling fear in the hearts of their enemies and the public alike. For Ridwan Taghi, the ghost in the machine. For years, Ridwan Taghi was a ghost, a whisper in the ears of law enforcement. He was the mastermind, the strategist, the invisible hand guiding the Mocro Mafia. His ability to evade capture added to his mystique. Born in Morocco, Taghi immigrated to the Netherlands as a child. He grew up in deprived neighborhoods but had sharp intellect and ambition. He rose quickly, known for ruthlessness and strategic brilliance. Willem Holleder, from kidnapper to media darling. Holleder embraced the spotlight. Known as the Nose, he captivated the Dutch public. He rose to prominence in the 1980s with the Heineken kidnapping. The daring operation made him a household name. He became a celebrity criminal. Despite his crimes, he cultivated a lovable rogue persona. He wrote a best-selling autobiography and had a reality TV show. But his charm masked a cold-blooded killer. Responsible for ordering deaths, his sister turned against him. The A-Team, assassins in the shadows. While Taghi was the strategist and Holleder the public face, the dirty work, the assassinations and executions, fell to a shadowy group known as the A-Team. This group of hitmen, often recruited from the ranks of street gangs, carried out the Mocro Mafia's most brutal orders. The A-Team operated with chilling efficiency. They were ghosts, appearing and disappearing without a trace, leaving a trail of bodies in their wake. They were masters of disguise, blending into crowds, using stolen cars and burner phones to avoid detection. Their preferred method of operation was the drive-by shooting, a quick and brutal display of violence designed to send a message. Victims were often gunned down in broad daylight in front of witnesses, a chilling reminder of the Mocro Mafia's reach and ruthlessness. The A-Team's reign of terror terrorized the Netherlands. They operated with impunity, seemingly untouchable. Their identities a mystery to law enforcement. Their existence highlighted the brutal reality of the Mocro Mafia's power. Their willingness to resort to extreme violence to maintain their grip on the underworld. Gwyneth Martha's story is a cautionary tale of ambition, betrayal and violence in the Mocro Mafia. Once close to Ridwan Taghi, Martha's ambition led to his downfall. Rising from humble beginnings, he quickly climbed the ranks. Martha earned Taghi's trust, becoming a key player, but ambition drove him to betray Taghi. A bloody feud erupted, plunging the Netherlands into violence. Martha was gunned down outside a restaurant, a brutal end to a violent life. The Mocro Mafia's rise has cast a long shadow over Dutch society, eroding public trust and fueling a sense of unease. The brazen violence and blatant corruption is a bitter pill to swallow. The fear is palpable, not just in the neighborhoods where the gangs operate, but across society. The social fabric is fraying, trust between communities eroding. The stereotype of the dangerous Moroccan youth further marginalizes an already vulnerable population. The Netherlands, once known for its open borders and liberal policies, is increasingly resembling a fortress under siege. The fight against the Mocro Mafia has become a national priority, dominating headlines, political debates, and everyday conversations. The government, facing mounting pressure to act, has responded with a show of force. Heavily armed police units patrol the streets, conducting raids, making arrests, but the violence continues, a bloody testament to the uphill battle they face. New laws are being drafted aimed at disrupting the Mocro Mafia's operations, at cutting off their access to money and weapons. International cooperation is increasing, with law enforcement agencies across Europe sharing intelligence in a bid to dismantle these transnational criminal networks. But the Mocro Mafia is adaptable, resourceful, always one step ahead. They exploit legal loopholes, bribe officials, and resort to even greater levels of violence to maintain their grip on power. The fight against them is a marathon, not a sprint, requiring sustained effort, unwavering political will, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about the vulnerability of even the most stable societies. Section 3. Fighting back law enforcement struggle. The war against the Mocro Mafia is being fought on multiple fronts, with law enforcement agencies facing an often invisible enemy. Their tactics constantly evolving, their reach extending far beyond the streets. The use of encrypted communication platforms poses a significant challenge, making it incredibly difficult to intercept messages, to gather evidence of criminal activity. Law enforcement agencies are locked in a technological arms race, investing in sophisticated surveillance technology, trying to crack the codes to stay one step ahead of the criminals they're trying to catch. Another hurdle is the omerta, the code of silence that permeates the communities where the Mocro Mafia operates. Witnesses are often too afraid to come forward, fearing for their lives and the safety of their families. This wall of silence makes it incredibly difficult to build strong cases, to bring those responsible to justice. Despite these challenges, law enforcement agencies are achieving some success. High-profile arrests, the seizure of large quantities of drugs and weapons, these victories offer a glimmer of hope, a sign that the Mocro Mafia is not invincible. Section 4, Collateral Damage, the Human Cost. Behind the headlines lies the heartbreaking human cost of the Mocro Mafia's reign of terror. The victims are not just names on a police report, but sons, daughters, fathers, mothers. There's the young man, barely out of his teens, lured into the gang, ending up dead in a drive-by shooting. There's the shopkeeper, forced to pay protection money to thugs. There's the honest police officer, gunned down for standing up to the Mocro Mafia. These are the human faces of the Mocro Mafia's brutality. Section 1. An uncertain future. Can the Netherlands break free? The Netherlands today stands at a crossroads, grappling with a criminal underworld that seems more powerful, more entrenched than ever before. The Mocro Mafia's grip on society, its tentacles reaching into the corridors of power, the business world, and even the digital realm, paints a bleak picture, a stark contrast to the nation's image of peace and tolerance. The question looms large. Can the Netherlands break free from this grip? Can it reclaim its reputation as a safe and just society? The answer, like the fight against organized crime itself, is complex, multifaceted, and shrouded in uncertainty. There is no magic bullet, no single policy or law that will eradicate the Mocro Mafia overnight. It requires a sustained, multi-pronged approach, a commitment to tackling not just the symptoms, but the root causes of organized crime. This means addressing the social and economic inequalities that create fertile ground for criminal networks to flourish. It means investing in education, job creation, and community programs that offer marginalized youth a pathway out of poverty and despair. Section 2, a global threat beyond Dutch borders. The Mocro Mafia story is not just a Dutch story, it is a stark reminder of the global reach of organized crime, exploiting vulnerabilities in a globalized world. The Netherlands, with its strategic location as a major European port, has become a hub for the Mocro Mafia's operations, but their influence extends far beyond Dutch borders. They have established connections with criminal organizations across Europe and expanding their reach into new markets. The flow of drugs, weapons, and illicit money knows no borders. The fight against the Mocro Mafia requires international cooperation. It is a story that is far from over, its final chapter yet to be written.